Welcome back, George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. Our guest is Anthony Davis, Anthony Q. Davis Sr. He's the interim superintendent of the Syracuse City School District. No stranger to the district, worked here for many years, then also spent time as an administrator in the Liverpool School District. What was your position there?
Multiple positions there. So
Yes.
I started there as one of the, I guess, grade level principals. And then I moved to the annex principalship, came back to the main building at the high school for associate principal. Then I became the executive principal out there. And then finally, I ended up out there as the director of student services.
Director of Student Services. So, a lot of experience here, particularly working with students. And so, just talking about what you want to see happen for this first year, and some of the bumps in the road, and obviously transportation is an issue for getting people to and from, and working all of that out, and also. We were also just talking about repairing relationships and I think we should name that for some, well, not for some, the issue of discipline has been sort of a point of contention, right? For community, too many suspensions, and then not enough suspensions, and then, and I say not enough, meaning that, so how do we deal with disruption in the classroom? I guess that's the issue. So how do we deal with that? And I think you were alluding to that in our last segment when you talked about, I've got all these other things and you're pressing me about this thing, and then that relationship sort of, it's not understood in the way that it can. So how do we support teachers in the classroom to minimize disruption so that the learning can occur for the rest of the students? Because for some, that means, like you said, there's a lot of issues, then people don't show up. Then when they do show up, they're so behind. And so instead of participating in it, the fear is, I don't know. And so instead of saying, I don't know, I disrupt. So there's a lot of things going on.
So what I'm going to say is probably not going to be popular, but it's going to be the truth, right? So I'm going to say, everybody wants a child disciplined until it's yours.
Until it's your child.
Until it's your child.
Okay.
Then things change.
They want that kid disciplined.
Exactly. Exactly. So I really think it's all about balance. And I've never disciplined a child for punishment. I've always wanted it to be about learning a lesson, hopefully learning a lesson early enough that it impacts you the rest of your life. So it's a learning experience. And I think part of discipline has got to be mindset. What's your purpose and what are you trying to get out of it? Because if we're just punishing students to punish students, I think we're never gonna move anything with that. So for me, when we talk about discipline, it's a balancing piece where if you're disrupting the educational environment, are you in the right environment? That's one question we have to ask. The second question is, what supports do you need or do you have? All right. What role will home play? What role will because if the school and the family has a great relationship, then we're going to sit down and talk together about what's the best thing to do. And I'm not sure that's how we've always practiced. That's a hope that we move towards that, so that we're working in partnership and not necessarily fighting about punishing a kid, because I just don't think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and like you said, how do we get everybody on the same page? And you have a whole family engagement among many other resources in the district, but you have a whole family engagement. And I'm thinking, how do we get families to take advantage of the resources, or give them the confidence or the comfort level to say, this is not really going on for me, or that it is, so that I'm sure I have an instinct. This is my instinct is kicking in to say that some parents aren't sure how to access the very things that are right at their fingertips, or they may be having such issues that they don't want to say what's going on. Maybe I'm off the track here, but it seems as though there might be some barriers for people to even want to become engaged.
I think you're absolutely right. Chief Wright Williams runs our Office of Family Engagement, and I think she does an amazing job with her team, because they're all throughout this community. They support in every way they possibly can. They serve as advocates. They bring resources to your door. They'll knock on your door late at night if they can't get you during the day. I mean, they're willing to go above and do whatever needs to be done to engage. And I think it's our responsibility to just make sure that families get the information that you're talking about, and that they can make informed decisions based on what they know. And it's our job to make sure they know.
They do. I mean, right, because you're right, because they do a lot of work. They do a lot of outreach. They have programming. There are things going on. What's one thing you want people to know about you and what the interim administration of Superintendent Davis is looking like, and what they can expect?
What I want people to know about me is I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be fair, regardless of how hard the message is to deliver. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not sitting here telling you that everything is wonderful and we're right where we need to be, because academically, I don't think anyone is where we want to be. So I think we have a lot of work to do, but I think we all have a lot of work to do. It can't be just the district. It can't be just the community. It has to be all of us together working towards that common goal.
Would you like to see more emphasis? This is a rhetorical question. So let me just say what I want to say.
Sure.
Wouldn't you like to see more positive stories about the students of SCSD?
Well, I'm gonna change that question myself.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna say it this way. I would like the more positive stories of SCSD to be publicized.
Okay.
Because they are out there.
Yeah.
We have successes everywhere. And people have done amazing things and are doing amazing things that we just don't hear about, talk about, see. But in small pockets, you hear those successes come out. And I just think we have to do a much better job of getting those stories out.
Yeah, because I think because we're so conditioned to think about, well, this is a problem and that's a problem, as opposed, because the reason why I thought about that is because I just saw something on your Facebook page about the Syracuse. It's like TED Talks, but they call it SED Talk.
TED Talks, yes.
What is Syracuse? Yes. What is SED Talk? What does the acronym stand for? Do we know? Do we remember? I don't remember. But whatever it stood for, I said, wow, that's really cool. You know, promoting excellence and having the students really bring topical issues, or and I've seen some promotion of the drone program over at PSLA, and some of the culinary programs at ITC, right? So there's some things going on, and I just love that. I would just love to hear to see the largest school district in the area uplifted. You know, it has the largest. It's got the most students, and obviously some serious issues that some of our neighbors don't have to deal with, but our neighbors are dealing with some other stuff too that don't get the same publicity, right?
Exactly.
One thing I would like to see the district do, this is just something that occurs to me, that when something happens of a traumatic nature in the suburban schools, you hear right away counselors would be available to support, and I know that the school district does it, but I hardly ever hear that said in the publicity of something happening where students are impacted and affected. So even though I know the school is doing that, so I would hope that that would be one thing, because when students are impacted, there needs to be space to process. And I know that school does that, but it's never done to the extent, at least in the major media, where it's like a second breath and counselors will be available and counselors will be available.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would just like to hear that often said too, when something happens to one of our students. It's almost as if, well, that happened and that student had a traumatic thing. And in other news, you know what I mean? You don't hear that.
Right.
Is that my perception, or am I,
those resources are available, but you're right. I don't think we hear it.
No.
That those resources are available.
Yes.
Right? I will tell you, I think what's different for us is you never can predict the relationships that goes along with this trauma.
Yeah.
So one of our kids experienced something outside of school that's really traumatic to them. But then, they have cousins and family and other places and, and different schools. So this spider web starts to create itself where you have a number of students who are affected that may not have been at that exact spot. And that's where we're different from other places, because we have to sort through all of that, figure out what those connections are, and support everyone.
Right.
So I think that's what makes us different.
I just wanted to let people know that we have some community conversations. So if you want to give the school district a shout out, or as Superintendent Davis says, share your concerns. You got a couple of opportunities. And the first opportunity, the fifth opportunity coming up this Tuesday, the 12th, 6 p.m. It's 1 hour in person at the Victory Temple Fellowship. That's located 817 East Willow Street, right next to the Villa Scalabrini apartment. So it's right there, right? Then on Tuesday, the 19th, South Site, the Dunbar Center, 1453 South State Street. That's the Monday, the following Monday, the 19th. And then the next day, Tuesday the 20th, they'll be at Bethany Baptist Church. You'll be there, bro. 149. That's an inside thing. 149 Beatty Street, 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And then West Side represent Tuesday, October the 4th, from 12 to 1 p.m. That's an afternoon, 12 to 1 at the Huntington Family Center. So the next 4 opportunities, will you have more than these, or this is going to round it out?
No, what we're doing is any sides of town that wants to have a conversation, that want to put together a get together, we're taking them. All right, so I'm not putting a time limit on it. I'm not doing any of that. We're going to go talk to whoever wants to talk.
Community conversation. So, and the school district is inviting you, no registration needed or anything like that, right?
No, we hope that, like, whatever the organization or whichever the place is that's holding it, we'll at least try to make sure there's some folks that show up so that we can have some conversation.
No, this is good.
And just so I say this, I'm not coming to give speeches. This is literally a discussion.
Yeah. So like, hello, how you doing? What's on your mind? Kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going back to this. So what happens if they love you so much? Nah, listen,
well,
I'm sure.
Let me say this. I've been careful.
Yes.
I've been very careful not to, give false impressions of my intentions.
Okay.
I will tell everyone, though, I am absolutely loving this work. I think our kids are worthwhile. I think our families and our community is worthwhile. And no matter how long I'm sitting here, I think showing everyone that respect shows respect from the office. So I'm hopeful that I'm setting an example of what needs to happen to bring all these entities together to work for one cause.
I mean, I think it's pretty cool to have a homegrown guy in the seat that has been around the block and around the way, right? I think it's kind of helpful, right? It's kind of helpful to have that. And I know that I think we're grateful that you've taken this challenge on. And because you could have said no, you could have said, you know, I'm good. I'm enjoying, you know, kicking my feet up a little bit and doing my little thing on the side. But you came in because you really care about the students. And I think that's more, you know, everyone cares, right? Everyone has the student's best interest at heart, right? And like you said, there are challenges, there's real challenges that have to be dealt with, real challenges that have to be ironed out. But I guess the
Would be
last thing I
remiss.
ask you is, go ahead,
Okay,
what are you
go
gonna
ahead.
say?
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the work that previous superintendent Alisea did to
Yes,
put us in financially great shape
yes.
to do a lot of the things that we're able to do at this time. He did some amazing work here. We will continue that work, but I will tell you at the top of that list is the financial shape he left this district in.
Mm-hmm.
um, is second to none, where we are now able to bring in additional resources to the students and to our families that we would not have been able to do without that work.
Listen, I saw him the other day. He looks very relaxed. So
He really does.
have you seen him?
I have seen him. You are correct.
Yo, I was like, look, he looks very relaxed. So I'm sure he appreciates you saying that, but he's certainly glad to be what he's doing, whatever it is that he's doing now, because he's definitely very relaxed now. What do you need from the community? And I don't say that as a rhetorical question, but like, what do you need from us? What do you need from those who live in the city, outside the city? What can we do to make this year the best year ever for our students who will, again, first real full week of school this week coming up? What do you really need? If there are three things that you need from us, and if you had your, what do you call it, your wish list or whatever your list is, what would that list look like?
The first one is engagement. And when I say engagement, I'm really talking about be involved, understand what our education system is and how we're held accountable. Because I think the more the community understands, the more they'll get, like, you know, I don't want people reading that, you know, Syracuse at the bottom of this list or that list. Well, if you understand what those parameters are, it might change how you look at the district as a whole. So we need to help educate, and people need to be willing to understand the things that happens in the district and how we're held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Second part is let's hold ourselves accountable. And that means when my kid gets in some trouble, let me deal with my kid in a way that's appropriate to get them back on track to do what they're supposed to be doing in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's not go defend when we know we're wrong. So let's work together to make things a positive place.
Mm-hmm.
You got something you want to say on that one?
I look, baby kids. That's all I can think of. Is, you know your kid. You know your kids, and if you're not taking care of business, don't send them to the school expecting the school to do what you're not doing. That's my editorial. Okay.
Absolutely. And most importantly, I think, and I'm really coming from the community's perspective, is we are trying to bring more and more of our community agencies into our schools to help us work with our students who understand them maybe a little more so than we do. And we need to cultivate those relationships. And by doing that, I think we strengthen our services to our kids and families. So I think if we can just do those three things, we will move quite a bit.
All right. I know that last week or this past week, many of the schools had what do you call it? First day back celebrations and things of that nature.
Orientations.
Yes,
And
and all that. And those are very important. You know, this sort of, I think you said it takes a village, right? Strengthening the village for student success is the theme of your community talks. And no matter how many times we think we have it, you know, we can reiterate these, you know, there's some systemic issues that obviously affect the delivery of education in high density urban schools across this country, no question. But we also know that there are some beautiful things that are happening every day, right? Even in the
Yes.
midst. And so let's continue to support the largest school district in the area, right?
Yes, sir.
20,000 plus students every day trying to get the best education. And so let's strengthen the partnerships. Let's get more resources into the buildings. And Anthony Davis is going to lead that home for a minute.
I appreciate you, sir.
Good luck to you. And I think that certainly significance of, leadership and what you represent for our community, and letting people who grew up just like you know that everything that they can sit there too, right? Because you grew up in this community.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping people will see, look, it's possible. It can happen, because it happened for me. So.
And thank you for the platform, and thank you for your insight, because I think you spreading this word just helps us move to a better place and be able to work even closer together.
That's Anthony Davis, interim superintendent. So every time I say do I have to say that every time, or can I just say superintendent for the time being, right? Like,
that's fine with me.
Right, you know what I mean? Because I have to keep saying interim. We know you, but shorthand, I can say superintendent, right? I can say that shorthand. Okay, all right. Anthony Davis is the interim superintendent of the Syracuse City School District. Come out and talk to him on any number of these dates. Go to their website, SyracuseCitySchoolDistrict.com, and they've got the event dates if you missed it. But we know, maybe I'll just put the link in I'll have the link for you. So it's this Tuesday, the 13th, from 6 to 7, Victory Temple, 817 East Willow Street, where the Bishop Bernard Alex is the pastor, right? And now that I said Bernard Alex, I got to also shout out Reverend Phil Turner on Bethany on the 20th. Now that I said that, right?
So I will be smart.
Listen, well, we got you. All right. Anyway, inspiration for the nation. Thank you, Superintendent Anthony Davis.
Thank you.